Well, hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name is Jason Levine. Thank you so much for joining me today for the Friday Masterclass, where today, coming from a long-time user request, going to be doing a look inside the streaming studio and basically going over kind of all the stuff that I use to put the stream together, stream regularly, something I've been doing a long time, and along the way sort of give you alternatives to a lot of the things that I use here, because everybody has different stuff. There's lots of different ways to do it. And this is just my particular setup, but there's a lot of similarities in the way that a lot of streamers do these kinds of things. And, there's a couple of tips along the way, specifically to sort of treating your room, depending upon the environment you're in, or just using different types of lights or colored lighting, or having, again, a variety of different lights to kind of change the environment. And then, of course, we'll dive deep a little bit into audio, microphone choice, some of those kinds of options, as well as treatments for the walls themselves and different things that you can do there. So as always, we're coming to you live across Behance, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitch. So thank you so much for joining today. Great to see all of you. A couple of quick shout outs here. I see we've got Robert Winterberg, Steve Kosoboom, Rob Magnell, Oliver Andrews, Cody, On Key, Reverb Mike, how's it going? Leonardo, General Kenobi, thank you from tuning in via Tatooine there, appreciate that. All right, for all my Star Wars nerdy fans. Esteban, what is happening? Shalom, my friend. So Esteban, I will be introducing a new member of our team very shortly. He is watching on YouTube right now. So I'm excited to bring that to you later next week. But okay, so in any case, listen, we're going to get started because I got a lot of things to talk about. I want to make sure I can get through all of it today. And I did this, I was going to have sort of a roving camera to do this and zoom in on things. The coordination wound up being a little too difficult, to be honest. So I did it via screenshots, but it'll be just as good, I promise you. So the first thing we're going to sort of dive into is treatment of the room or the environment. And I've talked a lot about this, and you're going to get to see I'm going to come over to the side here, a couple of different shots of the studio. Now, as I've mentioned, for some of you who've been watching for a couple of years, I used to own studios back in the day, way back in the day when I started my career in the music industry. So a lot of this gear and a lot of these panels and a lot of these things that I have just come along for the ride for many years. So this is a shot from behind the desk here. Just kind of showcasing you the back wall. Now, I'm in a fairly large rectangular room. And as someone who used to design studios too, and one of the things that people have commented here on stream about, and of course I mentioned I do all my vocals in here, any kind of voiceover work. I don't even use pop filters, and I don't use any kind of additional baffling or anything, because the room is sound treated both on the walls and in the walls with very thick acoustic foam and a variety of different foams at different thicknesses. Now, as you can see here on that wall, this one, the wall back there behind me, and again, the patterns matter, the way that you kind of organize these things. Ultimately, you want some symmetry to them. The panels that are kind of on the far left and right, those are 4-inch, super thick, old school USA foam or Auralex foam. I think it's USA foam now, or it's something else. Again, I've owned these for years, with these custom, very thick, dark wood panels that they're seated into. So they're really super absorbent, and really it just deadens the entire room. And that's kind of the goal that you want. I'm sure you've watched other streamers and experienced when someone's in a less than ideal environment where it's a bit echoey or a bit reflective. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but if you're trying to kill that, you can do it with foam. You can also do it just by hanging things. I used to hang tapestries back in the early days before I'd officially sort of built a studio. Thick blankets, use cool, colorful blankets if you want to make it more aesthetically pleasing. Anything to kind of deaden. Also, this is a carpeted space. There's a separate drum carpet, as you see over there. But all of that matters, because ultimately you're trying to kill reflection. Or maybe, maybe not. Maybe you want it bathroomy sounding. But as you'll see, that's sort of behind me. You'll also notice in the back corners there, I've got these 8-inch thick bass traps, because as this is a mixing environment as well, now you get to see kind of the front view over here. I've got them on just behind me, not in front of me. Bass frequencies don't have any directionality. So in this particular room, because of the layout and because of where I'm positioned, I was getting a lot of sustained kind of standing waves in this room. So those bass traps in the corners really take care of that. This is not something that most people will need. And again, that's more specific to mixing, but it's just one more element of something that I've kind of carried along with me for a while. As you'll see here, again, I've got those 4-inch custom panels on either sides of that main Kino Flow light there. Separate panels hanging up in the corners as well. And then even some sound baffling above me. And again, this comes out of the mixing environment. It's a little old school based on speaker placement and where you are. It effectively just sort of keeps the bass, sort of pushes it down and forces it out while doing a little bit of absorbency as well. So again, this is just something that I've done forever. It looks like, in fact, in that picture, I need to redo a little bit of the caulking on some of those. But again, it just keeps the room super clean, super dry, and allows me to do any kind of voiceover work in here without any kind of reflectivity. What is up, Ips? Why hasn't Adobe made live streaming software? Well, I don't have an answer for that. I don't know. How's it going, Shlomi? Okay, so again, you're just kind of getting a look here of the sound baffling. Here's a little closer look at some of those panels. Now, the red and gray ones that you see there also, these are probably 15-year-old Auralex. That's 2-inch foam. The ones next to them in those wood, you can kind of see the wood panels. Again, that's 4-inch Auralex. And this stuff is super dense, super, super dense. It's also, all of this is flame retardant. So if you are going to go with the foam thing, and by the way, there's lots of foam options out there now. If you go to Amazon, you used to have to go to these companies direct when I bought them, and it was a fortune. Now you can buy all this stuff via Amazon. You just want to make sure that it's flame retardant, and I wouldn't go with anything less than 2 inches. They do sell these like 1-inch foam squares in different shapes. I mean, maybe. I mean, it does a little, but you do get what you pay for. So I'd say at the minimum, it kind of depends too. If your room is really reflective and you can cover the whole thing, and you can cover the whole thing in 1-inch foam based on your budget, that'll make a difference. It may color the sound in a particular way, but it just depends. But ultimately, for trying to absorb reflection, 2-inch is just going to be a little bit more aesthetically pleasing. All right. And these days, I mean, I haven't tested more than a couple of them, but they're largely all somewhat the same. Some better than others, some a little more durable than others. I've seen, as I was searching for a friend of mine who just built kind of a little rehearsal studio, I guess a lot of the new material just sort of, pills away over time. Some of these panels are 20 years old. I mean, these things they're unbelievably durable. My old Sonex, which are actually in the window over here, those are 30 years old. They're starting to pill a little bit. They've also been in about 15 different studios and environments across the US. So it's kind of hard to believe that they've stuck it out all this time. Steve, do you keep the guitars in a different place? So oddly enough, I don't have that many guitars. I have an acoustic, an electric, and then I have my 3 basses. I guess that's not small. But as a musician, you think I have 20 or I don't have a ton of instruments. I just have ones that I play. So an electric 5-string, Rickenbacker 4-string, and a Martin 4-string acoustic with no electronics. It's the, what is it called? I think it's called the B1. I'm forgetting now. It's age, man. It just kicks in sometimes. Yeah, I think it's the B1. Again, 20 plus years old. It is phenomenal. It sounds like an upright. But they're actually over here in the corner. And there's some of the guitars. You can see them in this picture. The guitars themselves are in the corner against the bass traps over there. You can't really tell, but they're in cases over there. Okay. All right. And then the last kind of thing that I just wanted to show you here with regard to the sound treatment. Again, you can kind of get an idea of how all of this is stacked and how it works. Some of the ones that are on the above the doors and kind of in the corners here, they're curved. So it's a combination of square, rectangular, and then curved acoustic treatments. Again, a lot of this has to do with just how sound bounces in a particular room. You can kind of see them along the side of the doors there. Kind of see it in the background too. These again just affect how sound is absorbed and how it travels in the room. It's going to be slightly different for everybody. You don't have to go with those. Go with square, rectangular. That's your easiest bet. But you can also get creative with these, and those vary in 4 and 2 inch thicknesses. Again, and I was getting some weirdness kind of in the middle. What's really interesting, and anyone who walks into this studio has experienced it, because of the way it's treated in here, when you get into the sweet spot right here, it's completely dead. It's actually a little unnerving. You feel like, there's that, where is it? It's somewhere, is it in Washington? Or I can't remember what state it's in, where there's some place where it's like the center of the earth or something, and it's totally silent. It feels, I'm used to it, but if you sit down in this mix chair, suddenly it's just completely dead. And then your stereo imaging is so accurate because you can feel everything. And when the rear speakers are on, you can really, really feel the surround. So super, super cool there. I show this image primarily because you can't tell, but the new chair. I did go with another Herman Miller. As mentioned, kids in college. Sorry, guys, but this is an investment, and I sit a lot. So invest in a great chair. It's worth it. I did try some of the gaming, the X chairs and things. I sat in them after I'd already ordered this, admittedly. Not for me. I need the meshy kind of style, and it's so customized. There's a problem with this new one. This is the remastered version. It's now so customized to my body, and it has this lumbar and back thing now. It's got some other controls. I sat in here all day yesterday. I had absolutely no pain, no anything. I lost even more time being in this room. So that's a good bad, I guess, for the chair. It's a good endorsement for Herman Miller. But in any case, all right, go back to the chats here. Annika, love Herman Millers. Yeah, they are. Reverb Mike, those chairs make my rear feel like a waffle at the end of the day. What kind of chair are you sitting on? Oh no, the Mira line, yes, those are like the hard plasticky ones. Yes, they almost have like a waffle texture. By the way, just speaking of waffle texture, I don't know where that's coming from. When talking about sound treatments, I mentioned blankets, I mentioned tapestries. Again, if you don't need to go for sort of gorgeous, use what works. I often tell voiceover artists, say, I don't have a proper room to do voiceover in. It's too echoey. I can't do it. My bedroom is still a little, it's not carpeted, whatever. Put a sheet over your, like a blanket or like a duvet over yourself. If you have to, if you're recording voiceover. And same thing for the walls. Like you can dress it up with cool lights and things, even if it's just a sort of white blanket or white duvet or something like that, or as I mentioned, colorful, whatever you want. It doesn't have to be this stuff, just anything to kind of kill those bounces and reflections. But one other thing that people I've seen and talk about, of course you wouldn't do it today because eggs are crazy expensive, but egg cartons, egg crates, egg cartons, not egg crates, that's for carrying records. Egg cartons, which is cardboard and does have a level of absorbency. However, it also has some reflectivity because of the shape. So, if you've heard or you read on Reddit, like, oh, use egg cartons. Not if you're trying to deaden a room. It can do some mild amount of that, but overall, I'm going to go with no. Next session in the studio. Yes, Esteban, I know. People are waiting for me to play the sweet new kit. Okay, that's a little on sound dampening. Devender Jangra, which mic is best for singing? Well, we're going to get into audio. I'm going to preemptively tell you, because I'm not going to get into mics just yet. There is no one because it's entirely dependent on your voice. And as was said to Harry in, I just forgot. What's the wand shop? Oh, what's happening to me today? The wand chooses the wizard, Harry. No one might, with the exception of a Neumann U87, which sounds good on anybody. And it's also about, somewhere if you can find them used, $3,000 to $6,000 US. Aside from that microphone, any other microphone, it's going to be kind of dependent on your voice. Some require dynamic mics for their voices. Some do better with condenser mics. Some smaller diaphragm condenser. Some large diaphragm condenser. I will say this. For singing, the only thing I would say universally that I've never heard sound good, and this is my opinion, do what you want with it, Blue. Particularly Snowball and Yeti. For singing, no. No. That's what I'll tell you for now. We're going to get to microphones later, though. Rob Magnell, just get grandma to make you a huge latch hook rug to hang on the wall. Yeah, been there, done it. I still have a latch hook blanket that my grandmother made me for college. And back in my college dorm, I used to use this when I had to do recordings on my portable 4-track, and yeah, it works. Okay. Ollivanders, thank you, Cody. God. You know? Okay. Lighting. Now, anybody who streams, has a variety of cool lights. You've seen sort of the LED strip lights are very popular. My older son has those. Lots of variety here. Again, I'm showing you what's in here. I'm not saying you need any of this. These in particular that are on screen, so these are Kino flows. 4-bank, very, very common in broadcast and sort of interview stuff, news. Again, people who shoot a lot of interviews. I used to do a lot of sort of pro bono interview stuff. This is going back 10, 15 years or more. So I bought this set of Kino flows. They're very big. They have a separate ballast that powers them, which is over here. You can see that there. And again, 4-bank, 4 different bulbs. For these, which are coming directly head on, I'm using 5500 Kelvin bulbs, which is, pure white, sort of pure white daylight coming this way. And then I have a combination, as you can see in the room, of around, 2700, 2400K for just sort of the ambient lighting in the room. But that's what kind of gives me sort of the balanced natural skin tone, because I have so many other colored lights in here as well. So these are kind of the main on talent lights. Now the other ones that I use that are in the corners, in the extremes, I bought these on Amazon. This was during 2020, because if you go back to my streams from like 2019, I actually was just using the Kino flows, but I was doing basic 2-point lighting. And I also have lights, as you saw in that main image. There's lights above my head here. So I have sort of blue hue LED coming down to light the top of my head. I, of course, have the little purple hues over here. A spectrum of light, RGB LED in front of me, LED bulbs. But these, I think it's called, what is it? What are these? What are they? Great Video Maker, GVM brand. I mean, these are pretty generic, found on Amazon. What's really nice, so first of all, they have the barn doors, which you can see in this angle here. So you can adjust, the focus of the light. It's all LED, fairly inexpensive, and you can dial in the temperature. So you can go from super warm all the way up to, natural daylight, pure white. I think those also go up to about 5500. I have them dialed right now into about 2400. So these are great. You can also adjust intensity. It's just nice. And LED lights sort of changed everything. These bulb lights, these are great, but bulbs, expense. Also, it's super big, super heavy. I need sandbags to hold the Kino flows down, off their stands on the floor. The ballast thing is heavy and huge cabling. I mean, that's great. And if, you're shooting for, a Hulu documentary, sure. But you don't need that. It's overkill. These GVMs are really nice. And then, of course, the ubiquitous ring light, which is kind of throwing a little light this way, just to give me some nice silver highlights on my hair. I don't have it on in this picture. I also point out here, you can see some of the records there, down there at the bottom, my little teleprompter. I never use a teleprompter, but occasionally we on the evangelism team will have to do some marketing videos or things where it's just really specific copy. And I'm very honest with you, as you saw moments ago. I can remember lots of things, but I'm really good at reading a teleprompter. So rather than force myself to memorize a bunch of messaging, I just get it right. And by the way, that teleprompter uses an iPad app. I think it's actually called Teleprompter. Like that was the brand. This was like an Italian brand, Rufus Deutschler, our colleague, turned me on to it. Again, if you just search teleprompter, it has an app called Teleprompter. Really simple, really easy. But the ring light, and you can even see there, I have the color clip-ons there. So it's doing a combo of basically 5500 and 2700 on my, just as a highlight for me. So, and it just kind of balances out my face. And if I'm looking a little red, it's because I am. Okay. Let's go to comments. I still have umbrellas, soft boxes, beauty dishes, parabolic umbrellas. Yeah, I mean, I have some of that stuff in storage. for doing some stills. There's just a basic flosure, which you may have seen in there, to kind of soften the Kino flow. Because without that, it's really nice, sort of, if I'm going for that sharp, metaversy kind of look. But I want to soften it a little. I'm sharp enough. So yeah, I have some of those things in storage. I got rid of some. Terry White turned me on to all that kit some 10 plus years ago. And I don't keep it all. I haven't kept it all. I got rid of a lot of those things. Okay. All right, I'm just checking the chats here. Very quiet on the YouTube LinkedIn fronts. That's okay. Little different stream for today. Oh, Kelly Terrell, GVM has been good and affordable for me too. Oh, that's excellent. Yeah, as I said, it was right at the beginning of the pandemic, and that's when we were streaming every day. I just needed and wanted more light, and I think I got 3 of them. I'm almost certain, this is 3 years ago, but I think I got 3 for like $249, so less than $100 per light. Pretty good deal. Again, not cheap, but they're great. They're user adjustable. They have really great, the stand that it's on, the tripod that it's on is great. It goes up to maybe even close to 7 feet. So, and this is nice because it's a fairly high ceilinged room. So another reason for all the sound treatment too. And again, still dry, no reflection. But those GVMs are really, really nice. Annika, love 5500. Yes! I know, I remember some people telling me like, no, you don't want that. You want to cool that down. Yeah, the thing is, the room is, it's not huge, but it's dense enough to where if I because I can't remember, do I have 4300? I can't remember the next level down that I have in the bulbs, but I tried them and it just wasn't right, and then I had to use a lot of key lighting, and then it was too stylistic, and then it drowned out all of the ambient color that I have going on. So these just work just fine. And of course, the separate ballast there, I can control, how many bulbs. Right now, I actually have all 4 on. In the old days, I only kept 2 on, which is why if you go back to 2017, where it was just all LED blue light and Kino flows, I'm like half in shadow all the time. That was by design, but it's a definite look. Paloma Dora, the triple no, yes. Listen, I know some people have I'm not trying to knock it. If you've got one of those mics, I get it. But if you've ever noticed, they're a little bright, they're a little harsh. They pick up a ton of noise. Yeah, They got very popular for a number of years, and I'm not a fan. But use what you got. That's the key. All right, so let's get on to cameras. So I've talked about this a lot. Now, when I redid the studio, I remounted a whole bunch of different cameras. I took a bunch away. So at present, there's only, I only have 3 connected right now. So I removed 3 additional cameras. You may remember there was one behind me. There was one in the opposite corner. I had one that I never used, which was sort of down on the floor looking up. But the main camera that I use is this. And so this is a Nikon D800. Periodically, I swap it out with the D850, which is a native 4K camera as well. The 800 though is fabulous. I'm also using a Nikkor 24-70 lens, which is part of what's giving you that nice bokeh in the background there. Manual focus, so because I never move or change, it's just kind of dialed in as it is for sharpness. But this is what provides the main camera look, and I've been using this since 2015 or 2016. I think that first year on Twitch, I was using the iSight camera on the iMac, and then or maybe it was a Logitech of some kind, but eventually moved to this. So yeah, this and the D850 are sort of the companion cameras for any kind of close-ups, and just again detail and natural bokeh. And this is running through. Previously, it was running through. This is going through a Magewell, or no, that camera's going through a Mirabox HDMI converter. So I know a lot of you are fans of the Elgato HDMI to USB kind of converters if you want to bring your mirrorless or DSLRs into OBS, Wirecast, what have you. I've never had stable success with the Elgatos. I tried them years ago, but Magewell, and then for a period I was actually using Blackmagic Ultra Studios, but those were deprecated because the drivers no longer supported newer Mac OSs. But knock wood, for the last year, I've been using nothing but Magewell and Mirabox, and they've been awesome. And the Mirabox, which is also a 4K HDMI to USB, I think it was like $30 or $50. It was under $100. So Mirabox, M-I-R-A, fantastic little piece of kit, and I love it. And yes, and that is of course a Manfrotto. Forgive me, I forget the model number, but yes, again, that's another thing. Invest in good tripods. That one was almost as much as the damn chair, but worth it. Arm control, excellent management, excellent leveling. It's solid, and it's been all over. It comes with a really nice case, bulletproof. The thing is a workhorse. If you get one good tripod, if you're using a mirrorless or DSLR or other camera, if you've got like a mounted camera, or I'll show you in a second here, like a Logitech, you don't need that. But really good stands, they do make a difference. I got a couple of those Manfrottos, and they're good. So the other two cameras that are in here is this one. These are Logitech Brios. So these are 4K. Again, they've dropped the price on these. There's one mounted in the ring light there, which is nice about most of the ring lights have those mounts in there for, you see them, all the YouTube videos and TikToks and things. These are great. They're fairly inexpensive. They work wonderfully too. Terry, I think, well, actually now I think he's moved to his to a Z6 or a Z7, but for a period he was using Logitech Brio on his green screen, and the 4K Brio is so good, especially when lit properly. And of course, Terry's a master of lighting, so all right, if you're as good as Terry, you could make it look as good. But he was keying live right off of that $200 webcam. I mean, so these are really, really useful. And I've got that. Hold on, yeah. So again, here's the ring light cam, and then this one. I never even show this angle. I have to move this, but there's one right there. That's what that is. So okay, go back. Okay, so a little bit on the ring cam, and again, these are just super useful. A lot of I think some people just use a single cam. I mean, do you need multiple cameras? No. Are you trying to make it look more aesthetically pleasing over time? Yes. That's why you see those. Okay, I see we got more comments over here. Sifrifana, hey, how's it going? TR Bellin, how's it going? Late to the party. Hold on, let's see. Alana is saying, are you sure your camera's 100% in focus? Got you up on 4K and you seem a tabulary. Oh, well, it's because I'm off to the side because I'm making some room. So it is, but I'm not in my usual position. So that could be. Yeah. Again, it's manual here. So, I'm looking at myself. I'm also shooting at f4. If I go up to 5.6, it'll be a little better. Yeah. Right. Oh, that makes a difference. Yeah, exactly. I'm a little off to the side, so sorry for that. Yes, and it may be a little sharper on replay, but yes, it's definitely some user positioning here. I start in full focus. Normally, again, I'm in the exact position. I've moved off to the side a bit, so and my depth is a little different, so I can bring up the imagery. Okay. What's up, Paul? So many cool angles and a clean office. Yes, and that's something else I'm just going to point out. And I mentioned this when I did the refresh of the studio and kind of pull up these images here. There's no unnecessary stuff in here anymore. There are no toys. There are no figures. And I'm not judging anybody who has that. I had them for a while too. But clean surfaces. Every surface only has stuff on it that gets used. That's me. That's my weird OCD-ness. But that was kind of a priority for the refresh. I did the thing. I had my old school Midway gaming systems on the speakers, and my son had given me a little Bendy and the Ink Machine character, and I had a little seal thing. All great. Love you. Now gone. I did not throw those away, by the way. Those are mementos, but they're not in here anymore. Clean surfaces, as Paul mentions out. And yes. Yeah, Val uses a Brio. Paul uses a Brio. Really, really good stuff. Leonardo. Yes, really. I've had cheaper ones. They're okay. These these are old. I've had them for a long, long time. And that's the thing, is all this stuff, none of it's new. It's all lasted. I don't want to have to reinvest. Even I told you, I'm still working, although I do have a new machine coming very, very soon. This is my main machine here is a 2017 iMac 5K. 6 years old. I don't want to have to update or upgrade. I don't want to buy gear anymore. I'm over it. That's why I just I told you I dumped 38 rack units worth of gear. Some sold, some was like half working, and the stuff that I couldn't get rid of, couldn't sell or whatever, dumped. I don't want it. Clean. Okay, so now, last but not least, let's get into, thanks, Leonardo. Let's get into audio. So this is probably one of the, and I saved it for last because audio is always last in all of the production chains, but it is, you've heard me say, it's the most important, frankly. People these days will deal with lousy video, but bad sound, nah. So this is kind of the key to my chain. Now, not everybody does it this way, but this also factors into how things get streamed as well. And I wanted to use this to kind of show you the workflow. So the main device, and largely why I have this, again, is because I record music in here. I mix music in here. I will very soon be recording, live drums in here, multi-tracked, probably 6 or 7 tracks worth at a time. So the main device that I use is that Scarlett Claret 8. Again, had this for a number of years. You can see I'm a Focusrite fan. These are great. So I think it's an 18 in, 20 something out. All XLR on the back. So 8 full XLRs, all with phantom power. And this is the core of my input. The one above it, which is an 8i6, that's older. That's for secondary inputs. If I need additional outside of the digital ones here, that one's actually not connected at the moment. But and all this, by the way, I talk about power conditioning recently on some of the other streams. This Furman isn't a great one. This is the M8X2. That right there, this is Furman. Especially if you live in an apartment, and I've lived in my share of apartments where the electricity, the power is not necessarily clean. Sometimes you get weird buzzes or sort of electrical interference, particularly when streaming, or if you've got like iPads and things connected, you get weird stuff in your speakers. And a lot of times, yes, that happens because of Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, but it can also happen because of dirty electricity. A little power conditioning goes a long way. These things are also, I think this is like an 8 input, 3-prong power conditioner. Makes a huge difference. And then I have, that is fed into a much larger one on the floor. And this place is new-ish, so it has clean power, but even still, you can clean the power, get rid of any potential problems. You're just going to have a much cleaner audio signal. And because I'm a complete audio nerd, that means a lot to me. So that's why I do it that way. Okay. So the main device here is that bottom one, the Claret 8. Now, I send that to a completely separate system to do the stream. Now, this gets talked about a lot, and I think we've covered this, and I think Paul maybe has talked about this, or Terry. I use a completely separate machine, an older laptop, to do the actual streaming. Now, when I started, and when many of us have started, and many of you who may do this, you might stream on the same machine you're presenting from. So, and that's the nice thing, is that OBS and Wirecast and all the others out there allow you to do that. The more intricate your setup, though, the harder that becomes. And also, in my case, running Premiere, After Effects, again, trying to do high bit rate, 4K, 6K material, it's not the smoothest, to be completely honest. So I use a separate machine, which you can see here, running Wirecast. Now, Wirecast is just another version of OBS. It allows you to do a little bit more. It allows you to simulcast. You can do lots of things. It has this rendezvous client, which allows you to simulcast to multiple channels simultaneously. It has a lot of really, really cool features. You can see it running there. And then from that Claret 8, I'm sending all of the audio via SpeedIF Digital. So digitally instead of analog from one sound device to this other, what is this? This is the 18i6, where you can see the mouse and my little Stream Deck there. So all the audio is being fed digitally from the main system over to the streaming system. So there's no analog connection other than where the actual mic is plugging into the Scarlett. This makes a difference because, again, I'm trying to keep everything clean and completely transparent from sort of input to delivery. Not that you couldn't do this via analog outs. If you are going to do it, almost all of your sound devices these days typically have combo XLR quarter-inch inputs. The quarter-inch inputs often, not on all of them, but if you want to look for something, again, if you've got sort of grounding or power issues, look for devices that have TRS, tip ring sleeve, grounded quarter-inch inputs, balanced inputs. And then you can use balanced cables, which again will improve any, or minimize any potential noise that you may have in the audio signal chain. Because I'm going completely digitally, there's none of that. Again, this is just my thing. I've just done it that way. Who even uses SpeedIF anymore, if anybody? Rob will get to the estimate, but again, it's not unfair because a lot of the stuff is old. So go like original price, so much of the stuff has dropped, but you get the idea. Battery backup is your friend. Yes, that's another good one too. Cody, yep, you've had the same PC since 2016. Nice. Nice. Only hardware I've kept is my Alesis MIDI Verb. Still have one of those. It's not in this rack here. It's in the didn't dispose of yet, but it's in the garage rack. Isn't that funny? Pristine. I used mine to death, but it's great. It's great it has like an auburn. Do you remember the screen? It's that orange auburn colored LCD screen. Oh, I loved it. Yeah, power conditioner for sure. Gapes, 32-bit audio. So everything is going through. So for the stream, no, because none of the clients even support that. So it is all, well, again, it's not being recorded. So theoretically, it's all 16-bit 48K stereo though. But that is the difference. The entire signal chain is 48K as opposed to 44. When recording, everything is always done, because Audition works natively in 32-bit. I do everything in 32-bit. So while the device itself, all the Focusrites are 24-bit, it's captured into that 32-bit container. It's processed in 32-bit in Audition. Premiere also supports 32-bit natively, but 32-bit float is the native working bit depth of Audition. So yes, for that indeed. Oh yeah, and Gabe's saying you can use your iPhone and Ninja Video with OBS. iPhones have great cameras. Absolutely. And I've talked about that a lot. Harsh Pagi, hello from India. Nice to see you. Maya Balach, nice to see you too. Shalomi saying, yes, I use a Scarlett with a Rode microphone and Cloud Lifter. Yep, very common, especially if you're using, particular dynamic mics. The Shure SM7B is one of those where you often need additional gain based on your, again, even the Scarletts, the lower end Scarletts, don't have quite enough gain. You need a Cloud Lifter to get you there. Which brings me to microphone. So I've changed this over the years. This is what is in here now, and this is what I use for the streaming setup. Not for anything else. And that's this shotgun mic, the, again, classic, because I've had it a long time. It's a Sennheiser MKH 416. This is the de facto standard in TV and film for, on-location boom mic capture. Now, again, today you have so many options. You have so many. I think Rode makes a really nice shot, or several shotguns. What's that? MXL, which is, I can't remember who makes MXL. They have variations that are very inexpensive. You don't need this or that. That going the other way. I can't figure out the direction. But what's really nice about this, and I always forget, again, my brain, supercardioid, hypercardioid pattern, super good rear rejection. It only picks up from a very, very focused area. So even though I tend to move a little bit, I'm slightly off axis, I'm still within the polar pickup range based on the capsule of this mic. So it's very directional by design. It's also a condenser mic, so the 48 volt phantom power is powered by the Scarlett. That's what I like here. Now, if you go back to older streams, now this is also, it's not going to be by design as sort of rich, and I have a very rich, deep voice, if I do say so myself. I do. So I used to previously use an Audio-Technica 4050 multi-pattern condenser in cardioid mode on the desk, which was very big and very warm. Go back to my streams 2017, you'll hear it. The reason I stopped using that was because it was on the desk and it was in the way. And also, even though this is on a boom mount, I mean, you can hear that directly. When it was on the desk, there was just like too much desk noise. It was also capturing the vibration from the streaming machine when the fans would kick in a little too much. So I kind of got rid of that, even though I had Auralex underneath it to kind of soften some of those. So singing-wise, I use a large diaphragm condenser, specifically an Audio-Technica 4050, and I have a 4060 tube for my voice. Those just are married to my voice sound, and they work fine. I was just mentioning the Shure SM7B, really popular, really common mic for podcast, for streamers. It doesn't work for everybody. Now, part of why it doesn't work for everybody has to do with often setup. A lot of times, based on your sound device, you need something like a cloud lifter to give it a little bit more amplitude, a little more gain. Also, it is one of those mics where, by design, you are supposed to be very close to it if you actually want to leverage the sound that it's supposed to produce. You can get sound being 4, 6, 8 inches away, but that actually isn't the sound of the mic, really. The capsule is meant to have you, as it's said in the industry, eat it, get really close up on it. Same thing with an Electro Voice RE20. A couple of popular podcasters these days use those. I think Rode has an RE20 clone in black. The original is kind of in a like a beige. It's like a beige. I was trying to say it's not silvery, it's beige. Anyway, this too is a dynamic microphone. You really get right on it, and that's what gives it that sound. And it's perfectly balanced, sort of warm, boomy, and crispy without being like crispy. Those are dynamic mics. The SM7B, seldom crispy. It's usually just very warm and bassy. But a lot of it has to do with your voice. If you've got a really sort of thin voice, the SM7B might give you a little bit more of that warmth. It might behoove you to use some compression in the chain there, analog compression, before it goes to your sound device. But even still, you have to get right up on it to get that kind of a sound, to really benefit it. If it's 6 to 8 inches away, you're just not. You can increase the gain all you want. You're not using the mic the way it was intended. So that's a thing. And of course, condenser mics in general, you want to be at a minimum 6 to 8 inches away. You don't want to be up in front of them. The capsules are too sensitive. Dynamic mics have the benefit of an artifact called proximity effect, where as you get closer, they get kind of boomier and warmer, but it doesn't distort the capsule, doesn't distort the input signal. Condensers are the opposite. They don't give you proximity effect. They'll just give you gross distortion. So it just depends. That's why I say you really need to test out the mic on your own voice to see what works for you. And these days I say, get it on Amazon, see what their return policy is, try it. If it doesn't work, return it, get something else. There's so many options, it's worth it. And when it comes to mics, whether you use a boom like this or you just go with a standard dynamic mic, maybe you don't want, SM7B is 500 US or 4 something US. You can go with a classic Shure SM58, which is like the classic rock and roll, singing microphone. They're awesome. Now again, you gotta kind of eat that one too. Sorry, I'm looking to see. I don't have one. I thought I might have one nearby. You got to eat that one too to be to really get the sound that it's supposed to have. But you can give yourself a little distance with a 58 and still have it sound really, really good. And it has a built-in pop filter, right? That's the capsule. So that's a good buy. 100 US. I don't think the price has changed in 40 years. Also, if you're looking for something that's slightly more directional-ish, it's still a cardioid pickup pattern, but really good for sort of close mic of drums, snares, acoustic guitar occasionally. The SM57. Technically, it's the same microphone capsule, but it's the 57 doesn't have the round windscreen at the top. So again, the capture sound is it's different based on that. You can literally turn a 58 into a 57 by unscrewing the cap. That's true. And I do that quite often because I don't always want that windscreen on there, especially if I'm using it for drums. Okay. All right. Yes, EVRE20, like the radio station. Yeah, I mean, they're still for stations that are there. They're still going. Nice. A collection of stuff. Purging is hard. Amazing what can become useful now. If I could resurrect my 1992 Apple II FX to some state of usability. Yeah, all the old computers, my friend. I tried to give some of them away. Couldn't give them away back in the day, so they met their fate in a dumpster. Let's see this. Your microphone would be better for the room with echo comparing to Shure SM7B. Well, yes, no. I mean, again, a boom mic with a very narrow pickup pattern, yes. Because you have a window of focus of that mic that's about this wide by design, if you aim it right at someone's mouth, it'll pick that up. And there's rear rejection, so you're not going to get any of the reflectivity. The thing is, with an SM7B though, if you're right up on it, you're not going to pick up any reflectivity. So, no, I mean it's not a good comparison because if you use the mic properly. In fact, if anything, really, the 7B would be better in a reflective room because you get right up on it. You're not going to have you're not going to capture any echoes or any reflection. Yeah. There's always, the MKH 416, it's meant to have some distance. The pickup on this being hypercardioid hypercardioid is nuts. You can be a foot and a half away and aim it at someone's mouth and it feels like they're right in front of you. And it'll even have some bass to it. This is why it's an industry standard. 7B is similar to the Rode Podcaster. Yes. Yep, TR Bowen used it in radio for years. Yeah, I mean, so many people love it. Kitty Renee, what's up? Nice to see you too. It's been a super long time. And you're on Twitch too. How funny. Wow. Kitty was my very first mod on Twitch some 8 years ago. So thank you so much. Really nice to see you. Okay, so we've got just a few more minutes here. Last thing, just to kind of go through, just because people ask about it, is playout and speakers. I've talked about these before. These are the sort of modern day equivalents of what used to be the Yamaha NS10M. These are the Series 7. You can get them in black or white. I liked the white ones. And these are all fed in line via the Model 8S sub, and there's actually 2 subs in here. It goes down to just under 40 hertz. And these are just really kind of flat. They're not super bassy. They're not super trebly. They're just sort of they're not as flat as the classic Yamaha NS10M, but they're pretty close. So if I don't mix with the sub, it gives me everything I need. If I add the sub back in, it gives me a lot of really good balance. These are also fairly inexpensive, and they're somewhat of a standard these days. And they're also self-powered, which is really nice. So I'm all about the powered speakers. And as mentioned earlier, when doing surround, the ones behind me there, you can kind of see them in that picture. Those are Event series. Those are 8-inch. They're old. I've had those for like 24 years or something. They're a little boomy, but they have good mid-range, so they're good for surrounds. And for the center speaker, which you can't see, It's just an old school analog mono speaker. I don't even remember the brand name. It's like in a little wood box. It's nothing special, but it just kind of, it does it. Mic placement makes a world of difference. Mic placement is everything. And that's one of these things where, again, for streaming in particular, sometimes I'll see someone like on a Blue, which is supposed to be a side address instead of a top address, and they've got it angled the wrong way, and so even to that, how you approach it on your own voice. I mentioned these Audio Technicas, which I've talked a lot about. Those are side address microphones. If you talk from the top, you'll get sound, but that's not where the capsule is picking up from. You're 90 degrees off axis. So it's really important when you get a mic and you're not sure, especially condenser mics, to see where is the actual pickup from. Sometimes it's hard to tell. And a lot of mics, well, it looks like, oh, it's flat on the top, so I can talk from the top. No, actually, you're supposed to hold it vertically, and you're supposed to talk into the side, because that's where the actual capsule is facing out. So it's important for voice mic placement as well as instruments and other things. Okay? All right, one last check here. Oh, Event 2020s, that's it. That's what they are. That's the model number. I couldn't remember. Okay. All right, everyone. Well, that's going to do it for today's stream, a look into the studio. So thanks so much for hanging with me. By the way, just because you can kind of see it a little better now with the chair and adjustment, this is my, I should zoom out a little more so you can see, but this was from the Beatles Get Back rooftop IMAX film premiere. It was January 30th of last year. Got to see it in an IMAX theater. One day only, one night only, one performance only. Peter Jackson actually dialed in via Zoom, so they had a live sort of Q&A in all these theaters around the world. In my time zone, I think it was around noon. In the UK, it was 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. at the time, 8 p.m. at the time, and he was in New Zealand, and it was whatever it was, very early in the morning, I think, where he was. But super, super cool. So that's kind of, little, and then we've got some Elvis gold records underneath that, if you're wondering. You saw the Beatle ones. Again, I've had these for years. Across the universe, nice. And yeah, someone was saying before, look, the point is, so like, what does all of this cost? Well, again, so much of this stuff I've had for so long, I couldn't even tell you. As I mentioned, if anything, if you have a small space, one ring light can work, and then add a couple little, you can go to Home Depot. By the way, these little lights behind me there, those are cheap Home Depot fixtures that have dimmers on them with LED bulbs. That's it. They were $20, I tried, and I did a separate thing with really good light fixtures with those Hue lamps a couple of years ago. So expensive. They're fine, but they're so expensive, and I never even use the app. These, I can control the color as I want. I can manual, old school. I can change the bulbs out if I don't like the configurations. I was doing a Let It Be Get Back film color swash a few months ago during Christmas break when I was redesigning everything. I changed that. It was in the front here. You can't see it, but so you don't need to spend a lot. If you're going to invest in anything, though, like as I mentioned, good camera. It could be that Brio. It's a great one. If you use a DSLR or mirrorless, good tripod, makes a difference. And the right microphone for your voice. It could be a $20 microphone. If it sounds great, if it sounds balanced and warm, then that's the right one for you. Doesn't matter if it was $20, doesn't matter if it was $200 or $2,000. Like I said, probably the only mic that I would say sounds good on anybody and everybody is the Neumann U87 or U89. Or U67 if you're lucky. That's like a $10,000 microphone. But that's why it sounds good on everybody, because it's thousands and thousands of dollars. Everything else, you got to test it out. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this. More coming up on the channel, so stick around on Adobe Live. And until next time, have a great rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. We'll see you again. Take care, everybody. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.